Good evening, everybody. It is Sports 845, November 1st, 2023. We really haven't talked much. We've talked a lot about Section 9, but we haven't had many coaches in. And this week, there's kind of like a little, I know you guys are practicing hard, but you got a little bit of a break and gave us some time before the playoffs start. To my right, far right, Kevin Arduino, the head coach at Cornwall. Kevin played college football at American International. He was a three-sport athlete at Cornwall, 2009 Cornwall graduate, 8 years coaching at a 6A private school in Texas. 6A, I would imagine, is one of the higher.
It's the highest.
The highest. Nolan Catholic High School.
That's right.
And went to a Texas State Championship, won 3 district championships, and currently the head coach of the Cornwall Green Dragons. Obviously, to my right, the legendary basketball coach Dick O'Neill, who is 2 teeth lighter today.
That's all right.
Which
I'm
brings you
better.
down
I'm getting
to
better.
brings you down. You took the
I got
Halloween.
4. I got 4 now.
You took the Halloween costume to a different level. And to my left, the great head coach for the Midi Bears, Timmy Strenfel. Kevin, I read about everything you've done, and it looks like you were very successful in Texas. Warm weather, I'm sure, beautiful facilities. What brought you back? Playing at Cornwall?
Yeah, that had a part in it. It was always kind of, the Cornwall job was always something I had my eyes on. It was probably the one school that would get me back into New York. But what brought us back was really just family, trying to get back.
Family's still here.
Yeah, my whole family still in New Windsor, same house. My wife's family, all in. They have family in Cornwall, New Windsor, all close. And that was we had our son. I have a 18-month-old.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And once he was born, it was me and my wife down in Texas by ourselves. And
Where in Texas is Nolan Catholic? Where's
Fort
that?
Worth.
Fort Worth.
Yeah, which is
South?
right next to Dallas. No,
Oh, so it's right up top.
Yep, right next
I
to
had
Dallas.
relatives that live in Plano.
Okay, yeah. It's not far from Plano.
Yeah.
Friday Night Lights.
She actually tutored Julius Randle. She was
Yeah.
a tutor for Julius
So,
Randle.
so
She
Julius
did do a very
Randle,
good job.
Julius Randle that went to a private school that we played against.
I could tell. Crestwood.
Prestonwood.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it. So, Kevin, coaching Cornwall, obviously you were a record player, one of the better players to come out of Cornwall.
Mm-hmm.
And coaching Cornwall, there's got to be some additional pressure on you. First of all, Cornwall is kind of the as a reputation, not a reputation. Cornwall is a powerhouse in this area. They've gone to the Carrier Dome. They've won state championships. Do you feel any pressure coming to Cornwall, being that you were there and now you're the head coach?
I've always felt pressure coaching.
Mhm.
I've never had the amount of nervousness before games or and really it's because it's my first year as a head coach.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to figure out the entire picture, not just in Texas I was the offense coordinator. I had that was my deal. I had my practice stuff that I handled every day, and then it was the offense, and I was obsessed with that. But now it's the entire picture of it all.
Do you call the offense?
I call the offense.
You
yeah.
call the
I call
offense.
it.
Before we get into your team and your players,
Yeah.
tell us about your coaches.
So it's a great staff, and really one of the reasons why is because I've had prior relationships with all of them except for one. Coach Ward, he's a Section 9 legend. He's our defensive coordinator. I played for Coach Ward back when I was at Cornwall.
Mhm.
I played basketball for him. I played football for him. So
Yeah,
I've
we know
known him.
Richie well.
Richard, you know well. Yeah.
Wish him a happy birthday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
today is his birthday.
Okay.
But he's one of the best defensive minds in the area, if not the state. And so he's a guy who has head coaching experience and is someone who I've leaned on a lot for those types of things to kind of help me get through some of that stuff.
And he's got a lot of fire in his belly too. Yeah.
He does.
Yeah, he's passionate about what he does. And,
Just don't lose a 7-6 game, or you'll see that passion.
Yeah. No, he's
You'll be his assistant next year.
But no, we have a great relationship. We bounce stuff off each other during the game, pre-game, game plan stuff. So we have a great relationship there. Spencer Lupo, he's our offensive line coach. I remember him coming up as a player. He's a little bit younger than I was, but he's doing a fantastic job. Frank D'Inocenzio is the head basketball coach in
Dino
NFA,
at
during
NFA,
a couple of their state championship runs. He's actually family.
Okay.
So he's my wife's stepfather, so he's a family member for us. So he coaches linebackers and receivers. And then I have a player who I played with, who's his name's Connor Watts. He was graduated with me, and he's our DB's coach. And then the one new guy is George Kern, who came over.
I know that name. Why?
He was in the city for a long time, coached like 20 plus years at one of the private schools down in the city.
Gotcha. So you picked your own staff?
He was the only one I added.
Okay.
He was the only one I added on the varsity staff.
And did you want to pick your own staff?
Well, I met with all the coaches once
And you were happy with it?
I was in Texas at the time. We had a Zoom call, and I met with all of them, and I didn't want to change any of that stuff. Cornwall, like you said, Cornwall has that tradition, and a lot of that is in place because of the coaching staff.
Mhm.
There's guys there that have been there for a long time.
Yeah, I know you lost Jack Castle. A lot of people said Jack was the glue to that team.
I played for Jack, so Jack was someone that, and I still talk to. He texted me the other day. We still talk all the time.
Mhm.
He was someone that just with his kids right now wanted to kind of be closer to that, and it'll probably be a year-to-year thing with him. I'm gonna be. I'll be sending him messages every year.
Yeah, coaches that have had a lot of success, even assistant coaches, they have a different kind of vibe. They send a different kind of message because they've been there. They know what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're starting to feel that
Yeah.
yourself,
Oh,
right? Yeah.
You're 9-0. You have Warwick at home this week. Assuming you win that game, you play the winner of the Middletown Valley Lords for the, and then you go to the state tournament. Tell us about some of the kids. Cornwall's always been somewhat quarterback driven. We were talking before about all the great quarterbacks that have gone through Cornwall. Is the quarterback the leader of the team? I mean, naturally a quarterback's a leader, but who's your quarterback, and tell us about the team.
So our quarterback is Jaden Loriano. He's a senior. It's his first year starting as the quarterback. He does a great job kind of facilitating the offense. Our offense is a lot of RPO based things where he's got to make decisions, and he's got to be correct. He's got to distribute that thing almost like a point guard. He's blessed. We have two really good outside receivers. One that's 6'3" in Connor Cruz, and he's all of 6'3", and he can jump.
Senior?
And get up there. He's a senior.
Are you a senior laden team, or?
I think so. We have 21 seniors.
Okay.
So that's a lot. That is a lot. And then our running game right now is what we've been leaning on the most, and that's with Tyler Vanderpool.
Okay.
He has 27 touchdowns overall, passing and rushing and receiving. He's actually on pace to break the school record for a season. He needs one more. He's tied with it right now.
Who's he tied with? Amin Woods?
Amin Woods. He's tied with him. And
That's pretty good company.
If he gets,
That's pretty good company.
If you have a chance to watch Tyler, he's special.
Gotcha.
If you ask any of the coaches who play it, I'm sure.
Is he going to play at the next level?
He's going to play at the next level. We're not sure yet where yet. Kind of going pushing his stuff out now and talking to coaches. He can 100% play at the next
He
level.
can catch it too.
Oh yeah.
Does
he play other sports? He does track. He started track last year in the spring, and it helped him a ton.
I was going to say, could only help him. Could have only helped him.
Watching him last season and film from last season and seeing what he's like now, he has an extra boost.
So I'm going to ask you both the same question when we get to Timmy, but I'm going to ask him as well. How involved are you with the JV program, the modified program, and the youth program?
So I try to be at as much as humanly possible. For us, it's difficult right now because our varsity practice at the middle school just because of the field and it's a little bit better. Our JV and freshman practice at the high school. So I'm not always there with those guys. I try to get to every game when they play. The JV plays usually on Thursdays, and the freshmen usually play earlier in the week, Wednesday.
So there's a JV team and a freshman team, or is that the modified?
Yes. Yeah, we have a freshman.
Gotcha.
We have a freshman, and we play a lot of schools outside of Section 9.
And Cornwall usually schedules some rather tough games before this, like week 0 and stuff like that. Did you do that this year?
We played Colony from Section 2.
Okay.
There's a double A school up there. We played them our first game this year in week 0 at RPI. It was a cool venue, really nice stadium. That was our week 0.
Gotcha. I would imagine I don't know how many state titles Cornwall has to win before they get a field that's playable.
Well,
Is it 10?
No, they got it. It's in the budget. But I asked SEMO, the AD, when they're going to start next summer. I said, you've had the damn thing in the budget for 2 months. I mean, for 2 years. What the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
That's just like, not to interrupt, that's just like Warwick. Warwick could have 2 artificial fields for nothing, and they voted it down. Nothing, and they voted it down.
Yeah,
That's
I was
amazing.
always
Right?
surprised.
What?
Is it the farmland out there?
I don't know what the hell you know what it is. It's one of the guys who's got most of the sod farms out there has a lot to say about what the hell goes on in rural politics.
Yeah.
And so that's what happened.
I would imagine the stadium that you played in Texas was pretty nice.
It was nice.
They all look pretty
It
nice.
was, it was a nice stadium, and everywhere you played, there was no grass fields.
Let's talk to. You know what? Let's take a break. This part of the show has been brought to you by Brew on 2 Railroad Avenue in Goshen. Great atmosphere, great bar, great specials. The food is fantastic. The Irishman is known to hang out there. We'll speak to him later. But that's Brew, 2 Railroad Avenue in Goshen, New York. One of the best places around. We'll be right back. We are back. Sports 845, November 1st, 2023. Kevin's going to stick around. Kevin, first of all, I'll tell you at the end of the show, I'll tell you now, best of luck. We always say we root for the team at the end of the year that goes to the state tournament. And I got 2 coaches here that both programs are favored to go to the state tournament. So we'll be rooting for you guys. Timmy Strenfel has been a friend of the show for years. He's 17 years with the Middletown football program, 7 years as a head coach. 5-time Erie Bell winner, won the AA conference in 2020.
Correct.
And COVID season, you had to add that. I wasn't going to mention it. Timmy not only coached, but he is the all-time leading wide receiver at East Stroudsburg, where he broke Jerry Rice's record there. Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, and Tim Strenfel, and years ago, Zeggy Levine. He's the all-time leading receiver at East Stroudsburg, which is a good school. It's a good football school.
Yeah, they're actually 8-1 right now.
And the Middies are 7-1. Their only loss, they hope to redeem that loss.
If we get an opportunity.
They lost at Monroe Woodbury, 7-1. You guys played Pine Bush. Assuming you win that game, you get the winner of the NFA Monroe game.
Correct.
Timmy, a little birdie told me, who works at your school, and coaches at another school, that he feels this is the best Middletown team he's seen in a long time, in a while. And you guys have had some good teams.
Yeah.
He says Middletown, hands down, is the team to beat. Strong up front, great running back. But I'll let you tell us about your team.
That birdie definitely has come and spoke to me a few times in the school, and he does like what he sees. So it's nice to sort of hear that. We are a very senior-heavy team. This is a team that we sort of started talking about 3 years ago.
Which is great.
2021, we had a lot of sophomores, a lot of young guys that just needed to learn the game. And their experience, and they had the athletic ability. They just needed the experience and a couple pieces here and there. And this seems to be the year where everything is sort of going in the right path.
Don't you have like a freshman quarterback or an 8th grade quarterback or something?
Grade.
And I'm going to ask you about that in a second.
Yeah.
But tell us about your staff, because I know your brother-in-law is part of the staff.
Yep.
Jason.
Yep.
Who else is on your staff?
So we got Bobby Mangano. He's a Middletown alumni, and he played here. Actually, Jason coached him, but he's our offensive coordinator. He's done a great job this year. Chris Conklin is a Port Jervis grad. Brought him over. He's our defensive coordinator. He's been with me now since the beginning. So he's really the only one who's been through everything. All the other coaches have sort of either gone to different levels or gone elsewhere. And then Jason Lichtenstein is our offense and defensive line coach. We've done a great job sort of merging the football and the wrestling teams together in Middletown. And I think that was one of the big things why the success is coming. And then we have Mike Conklin. He's also come over from Port Jervis. He coached there the last couple of years. He got a job in Middletown this year. So he's coaching our tight ends and linebackers. And then we got Phil Coccialetti. He is the world's most interesting man. He is our quarterbacks coach. He played back in the 70s. We took him.
I know who he is.
Yes,
He's an actor.
Yes, he's an actor.
Yes.
He was in
Yes.
Sopranos.
Yes,
Yeah.
he comes in here all the time
Yeah.
and says to me every time, I'm working with the quarterback.
Yes. So that is Phil.
Yeah.
And he's great.
Yeah.
He's fantastic.
He's more proud of working with the quarterbacks at Middletown than he is at starring in Law and Order.
Oh yes, yeah, he loves it. He loves playing. He comes every day and just fires balls at kids. I mean, he has. I think he's 72,
He loves it.
73 years old,
Mhm.
and I don't know how his arm hasn't fallen off yet because he'll just get a ball and just
How
start
did
playing
you
catch.
know him? Or did he approach
So
you?
he approached us actually during the COVID season. It actually might have been the year before. He came up. We were practicing one day, and he just showed up on the field. And we were like, "Hey, how are you? Can I help you?" And he's like, "Oh, how do I get into coaching?" And he sort of disappeared for a little while, and then last year he showed back up again.
I can tell you right now, he loves it. He comes in
Oh,
here and
he
all he does is
absolutely
talk
loves it.
about it.
Yes,
He loves it.
yeah, he's great.
I forgot to ask you a question. Do you work in the school, Kevin?
No,
So what do you do?
I'm a loan officer for TG Federal Credit Union.
Okay, so you don't. That's you know what? I'm glad. Not that you are not working in school, but I'm glad that Cornwall and some of these other schools like Goshen, and I don't know about Middletown, are hiring the right people to coach the sport instead of just giving it. Not that you can't be a good coach in a phys ed or a teacher, but I'm glad that they're opening it up to the best available coach.
Yeah.
I don't know how you think about that as well, but I think it's a good idea.
Yeah,
You
I mean, I
know there's unions and stuff like that. We talk about it all the time.
personally enjoy having teachers as coaches.
Yeah.
Because it gives the coach and teacher an
They get to know the kids better.
and they are always with them.
Yeah, there's pros and cons on both
yes.
ways. As long as they're hiring the best person
Correct.
for the job.
Yes.
And
I
also
agree.
to add to that, when you're teaching the kids in the classroom, you're seeing them in a different light.
Yes.
You're seeing them in a whole different light, from the football field to the classroom. You're
Yeah.
seeing, how they behave. Well, not so much how they react to things
Yeah.
inside the building as opposed to outside the building.
Well, and going into my first year, I was at the elementary school, and I was always told about how kids act in high school, and I'm like, no, that's not them, because I never saw that side of them, because I only saw them on the football field, and they want to be at the football field, they want to play football, and I just didn't believe it. Now that I'm in the high school, I can sort of make my own decisions based on who they actually are in the school.
That's a good assessment right there.
Timmy, tell us about your team. Dick mentioned you have an 8th grader at quarterback. Before you tell us about the team, I'm going to ask you specifically about the quarterback.
Okay.
Is he a quarterback that manages the game, or a quarterback that could sling it and win a game for you?
I would say a good combination of both.
Mhm.
We have a good running team. We have a strong
I was told your
offensive
running
line.
backs are great.
Yes, we got lots of them too, which is nice. He's one of those guys that if we need to throw, like we play Newburgh, our first 13 plays are passes, and we move the ball.
How big is he?
Probably 5'10", 160 pounds.
But he's in 8th grade, so you're going to have him for 4 more years.
Yes. Yeah. He has 2 younger brothers who, actually probably 3 younger brothers who are really, really good kids, good football players. They play for the town now. So it's a good football family.
What's his name?
Joseph Royal.
Joseph Royal.
Yeah, Jojo, everybody calls him.
Okay.
But I mean, he's beyond his years mature. He knows football. Like, I would say he's probably one of our most intelligent players on the team, being able to see the field and understand it. And it's nice having a quarterback like that, because he's one of those guys where you show him one time and he understands it.
So you have an 8th grade quarterback that you could trust
Yes.
on the
yes.
field, that he can audible, he can do
Yep.
things, he
Yeah, he
has that
audibles.
freedom.
Yeah. I mean, we do, like I said, audible, maybe like switching our play right to left, or moving our running back if we put him in the wrong spot. But for the most part, he sees things very, very well.
How about your quarterback, Kevin? Can he change a play at the line?
He doesn't change many plays. He'll help him change protections.
Okay.
If we're not getting the look we want, he'll move guys around and make sure he gets himself protected in the pass game.
Gotcha. So you guys as coaches put a lot of trust in your kids.
Oh yeah.
I think that's very
you have
important.
to.
You have to.
Yeah.
Oh, particularly in a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's like, in basketball, I was hoping the point guard was
Your coach.
a part of my, part of what I think
Yes.
about, and then pass that along. But
Yeah.
quarterback's the same situation.
This is a question for both of you guys, and then we'll get back to your team.
Okay.
Before the season starts, you both have ADs that you have to answer to. Do you design your own offense? Do you design your own offense, or is it saying this is what we run?
No,
That's kind of old school now.
yeah. Like when I came in, it was it was all installed kind of what I ran.
You base it on what your roster looks like,
Yeah.
what your strengths
And
are.
it changes
Because
year to year.
My first year at Goshen, I was so turned off to football. My kid wasn't even on varsity at that point, but I would go to the games to watch. And there was an AD there that said, we run the power on.
Yeah.
And you had a running back that was 148 pounds.
Yeah.
And an offensive line where the biggest kid was 190. And I'm like thinking to myself, I'm not a football coach, but how could you determine what you're running before you see what the kids are?
You know, but both their ADs, from who are friends of mine, hired these guys with the idea that
Yes.
these are good hires. I'm gonna let them, you know.
You both have very good
do,
ADs.
do
I
what
know
you,
them both.
you know, do what you do.
Yeah.
You know, do what you do.
In the
And when-
interview
when-
process,
Yeah.
I had to show
Yes,
What-
that's
what's-
exactly
what's
what I was
up?
gonna say.
what are you going to be doing on offense? What's your philosophy on special teams? Things like that. So,
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, they're smart. Those guys, and I'm speaking for Jason. You know,
Yeah.
he's I think he's great. He's pretty much the main reason why I'm at Cornwall right now. So
Jason's a good AD.
Yeah.
Coach is a great
Well, he
AD.
was also Jason's kid is a college quarterback at Georgia Tech too.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
he's seen it all pretty
Yes.
much in every camp in the East Coast and the West Coast. So
Mhm.
And it's nice that Dave coached also, because there's sometimes I go in his office and I'm like, hey, what are your thoughts on
Yeah.
this?
Yeah.
Just to get just a little piece of his brain.
Tim, I don't know if you remember, but David was the architect at his Cornwall program.
You shared that with me once or twice.
Well, even if he didn't, I'm sharing with
Yeah.
you. They were going nowhere for years, and I'm telling you that too. They were like over for a long time, and David went in and turned that around. And since then, they've had a really good line of coaches come through there. So, and they've continued the same thing, and that's what you're doing now is
Oh, thank
really
you, yeah.
well done. So,
Timmy, your running game is your strength.
Yes.
Tell us
So,
about the kids in the running game, because you
so-
have to have a very good offensive line coach in order for the running backs to be that
Yeah,
successful.
I mean, I think it all starts up front with us. We have all of our front on both sides are seniors. We have one defensive lineman who's a junior, but everybody else, we got seniors across the board.
You're big.
Yep, Stefan Moncherry and Ramir Bradley, both. Steph came in second at the heavyweight last year. Ramir came in seventh. That's our right guard and right tackle. And then Bryson Tibbs is our tight end.
Mhm.
He came in, I believe it was fifth in state at 215. So, I mean, we got some big boys up there. Makai Wilson is our left tackle, and he probably weighs 305.
oh, you're that big, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, that's great.
They're big boys.
Yeah.
And the nice part about them this year is that they're finally mean. The first couple years, they were just learning the game and starting to understand.
There's
it.
nothing worse than a soft 6'4", 300
Oh
pound.
yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah,
we don't have any of them anymore.
And the running backs.
Running backs, we have we're like obviously in shotgun, you're a little bit more of single back, so you got one guy running the ball. We have double wing, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guys who touch the ball. 6, maybe 7. Jelani Graham is our leader. He's our fullback. He's been sort of carrying the load this year. He has 17 touchdowns, I believe it was, that the coaches said today.
Senior?
No, he's a sophomore.
Okay.
there
The
you
rest of
go.
the guys are all Michael Culver, Quentin Langlis, Calvin Perez. Those guys are seniors. And then we got Rudy Cherry. He's also a sophomore. He's one of our backup wing backs. And I mean, they love playing football. It's really nice.
Great. And you have one loss, we said. It's at Monroe. I'm sure you're rooting for, well, I'm not sure, but I would imagine you'd want another crack at Monroe. I don't know
Oh,
who's
yeah.
favored in that game. Newburgh to me, you know, when I heard you guys beat Newburgh, to me, it made you real. I don't know if you felt the same way, but Newburgh's always tough.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Yeah, Billy does a great job over there.
Fantastic.
He reloads every single year.
Yeah, it does.
And they got a really good youth program where
Mhm.
those kids come through.
Mhm.
And I mean, they coach those kids all year round.
Mhm.
And they do a really, really good job. And every year that's sort of a couple years ago I was in here, sort of 2019, I believe it was. And I said it was finally nice to start being mentioned with the Monroes and the Newburghs, because for 10 years when I was here, it was sort of Middletown.
and you know what? It should be, because you guys are a city school. You have a big group of kids to choose from. So you guys should be good.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you should.
Yeah.
You should have talent, and now you have it. You have a good staff. You have a good head coach. I mean, I know the Erie Bell is a big thing for you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah.
This is for both of you. After the season, people don't understand. Our viewers don't understand. Maybe they do because we drill it into them every week. How much time and effort goes into coaching? The season ends. I'll ask you first. Are you making phone calls to D2, D3, D1 schools saying, I got a kid?
Oh yeah, I already am.
I'd say it's already happening.
I've started reaching out to schools probably in the last 2 months. Starting to say, hey, what do you guys bringing in this year? What's your situation like? I have this.
And you probably know, because I'll never forget when my kid was playing, I was one of those parents that, I got a letter from, I still have it, from Princeton. We're interested in your kid. And I was so proud that Princeton's interested in my kid. I didn't know he was one of 8,000 that got that letter.
Yeah.
And you find out, I was fortunate enough my father had a roommate in college, Bob Pruitt. He was the head coach at Marshall for Randy Moss and Pennington, and played, had a cup of coffee as he was a tight end for the Cowboys.
Yeah, he's good.
And I sent Pruitt my son's tape instead of wasting all the time. And I called him the next day. I said, what did you think? He said, you sent me highlights. I need to see tape. And he said to me, your kid's got D1 hands. He's got D1 speed. He's got a D3 body. And he's one of 20,000 kids that are like that. If you want him to go to Marshall, I could get him in. He'll sit on the bench for 3 years and maybe play special teams in his 4th year, but you can walk around and say, my kid plays D1. And I'm sure you have a ton of parents that think their kid is a D1 Alabama ready player. Is that a hard thing to break it to parents saying, when they're thinking you're calling Alabama and you say, I just got to, not to slight a school like Morrisville, it's a great achievement. Many kids don't get a chance to play it at the next level at all. Yeah. But is it a hard thing to tell a parent, no, not Alabama, but Delhi is interested or something like that?
I don't think it's hard. I think you're being truthful.
Yes, and I was glad someone was truthful with me.
That's what people want. That's what people want. No, not a lot of people know.
Right.
And I don't think they're trying to be they're not delusional. They don't know. They don't know any better, and they don't know how competitive the recruiting is, and especially nowadays, it's
tougher than ever because you
the
have
transfer portal is really
big.
Miami has a 28. The Miami Hurricanes have a 27-year-old tight end.
Yeah.
It's an 8th-year senior.
Well, here's the thing, and this is coming sort of from my East Stroudsburg background.
Where you were the all-time leading receiver.
Yeah. Well, we still all talk because my quarterback is now the head coach there. But the transfer portal has sort of raised the
it's
lower
free agency.
Yes, because the top kids in the state, like Pennsylvania, New York, the top 5 kids are going to go to those big schools. But then after that, those big schools are going to be like, well, listen, we're just going to go to a transfer portal because that kid's already college, like he's initiated into college. He understands the college life, and he's done it for a year. So why am I going to put hope into a freshman coming out unless he's unbelievable? And now a lot of those guys who would usually go and maybe sit the bench at a Marshall is now going to a D2 or D3 school. So
you want to go where you're going to play
is going up.
Yeah.
Well, on the same line, from what I'm listening, I watch that game day and a lot of these coaching shows. They're really recruiting through the portal first, and then they're going to the high school kids. But now, I guess this is the last year of the COVID year, right?
Yes.
This is these will be the last guys that are list of the COVID players. Yeah. So that may lessen a little bit. Yeah. A little bit, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was a tough year because we had a good team that year. So I had a lot of kids going into college. However, a lot of those college kids stayed and they didn't count. Yeah. So they stayed, and it was like, hey, you get another year. So they said, oh, well, all right. Well, I didn't graduate yet, or I could push this off for another half a year. I'm going to stay.
Sure.
And so
it also made the gap year popular as well.
Yeah.
When I was in Texas, we'd have schools come to see us, talk to the coaches, see kids. They would tell us we're not taking any high school kids this year. Just kind of doing our rounds, just checking with coaches. Because we're like, what do you want to, what are you guys looking for? What do you want to see? What do you want to speak to? Like, no, we're just doing our rounds.
Kevin,
they're all taking transfers.
the quality of football in Section 9, Class A, where you are, compared to the quality of football where you were?
It's different. It's different. So in Texas, the private schools are.
How many kids went to the private school you were at?
We were a little under 1,000.
Okay, so it's 3 times the size of Burke.
Yeah. But in Texas, public schools are more like the higher, usually the better programs, more athletes. It's like the school, you got 5,000 kids at public schools now. It's insane how popular the schools are. So private schools are a little bit, you don't have the depth. Okay? You don't have the sub-varsity players that the public schools have. So like I've coached 4 stars. I had a slew of running backs where we had 5 Division I FBS running backs. But then the next guy in is like, oh my gosh, it's a complete drop off at the private school level. You just don't have that depth. Here, and here's, I feel like I have more depth. Yeah, I have my Tyler Vanderpool, who's a special running back, who's kind of the go-to guy. But then I got 2 or 3 guys I can put in that's maybe they're not at Tyler right now. They're going to give us. We're still in a decent spot. That to me is the difference. At least the experience I had in Texas. The top of the line, yeah, it's different.
So it's top heavy.
It's a different level.
Gotcha.
But the depth wise and like the full picture of it all, it's not crazy to be that far off. Now, what is far off, at least at Cornwall, is the resources, the facilities, things like that.
But hopefully that changes.
Yeah, hopefully that changes the next year.
But where their school was 3 times the size of Burke, their school was 1/3 the size of Newburgh.
Yeah.
With 3,000 students.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you relate it that way, probably Kingston too. I think Kingston has a large. I'm not sure.
I would
The second
assume
biggest?
Kingston,
Are
Middletown,
they the second
Monroe.
biggest?
Kingston
Where's
is
Monroe?
actually 3rd or 4th right now.
Oh, are they? Okay, all right, okay.
And
Well,
a lot of kids are moving into Middletown, which is nice. I
yeah,
appreciate
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. We'll just try to drive through it.
You guys are
Oh,
gonna
yeah,
Yeah,
building everywhere.
yeah.
you guys are gonna stick around for a little bit?
Yeah.
Great. We'll be right back. This portion of the show is brought to you by Artist Alley. Artist Alley came up for my birthday, and I'm going to tell you something.
No, don't show me nothing.
No,
Don't
I'm
show
not
me
going to
nothing.
show you. I'm
Okay,
going to tell
all
you
right.
the definition of true love.
I got you.
She drove up and missed part of her Eagle game against the Commanders.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a big deal. For
I
her.
know that. I
Yes.
understand.
But we had a great weekend, and Artist Alley is at Elite Studios in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and she does a great job. And we will be right back. We are back, and I just got some breaking sports news. No, I'm serious, and this is going to affect you. And it affects me because he's one of my favorite coaches of all time. Robert Montgomery Knight, 83 years old, passed away.
Oh, God.
Bobby
Oh,
Knight
wow.
passed
Oh,
away at
Lord.
83 years old. To me, one of the greatest coaches. And listen, I know there's some negative. You could write a million stories about Bobby Knight. To me, he was one of the. I would want my kid to play for him. Maybe not towards the end of his career, but Bobby Knight was a genius.
No,
And-
just brilliant in what he did. And but toward the end, I always thought if I had a son, I want him out there in Indiana. But toward the end, not so much. I just thought
Yes,
he lost his way a little bit.
he turned
And-
into Woody Hayes.
Yeah, well, yes.
Bobby Knight. There's a great.
But as a basketball mind,
Listen,
know,
he's
leave him
a
right
guy
there.
that would never coach in the pros.
right?
Never would want to be involved in that, but he was a hell of. There's a lot of things Knight did that were
Yeah.
very good that weren't reported.
Right.
Landon Turner,
Oh, no, yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
no,
that.
He was a great philanthropist.
But
No question.
there's a great thing, and you could see the Zoom call. I didn't know they had Zoom back then, but you might be able to fill in the blanks here. One of his players became the general manager of the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay.
I think it was Pritchard.
Right. Okay.
Pritchard's probably the uncle or the grandfather of the kid on the Celtics.
Right.
I don't know,
Right.
but he was the GM of the Trailblazers,
Mhm.
and he made a phone call because he played for Knight, and he said, "Coach, who should I take? I got the number 1 pick in the draft. I have Bowie or Olajuwon," and this is all on tape. And Knight said, "The greatest basketball player I have ever seen in my life is Michael Jordan, and he is going to, when he's done playing, he is going to be the Babe Ruth of basketball, the greatest to ever play the game." And the guy from Portland responded with, I I'm sure he is great, coach, but we need a center. And Knight said, well, God damn it, play him at center. Because if you draft anybody else, don't call me for opinions anymore. And the Trailblazers went on and drafted Sam Bowie.
Yeah.
And Sam had the same NBA career that I had.
Yeah.
Bobby Knight, 83 years old. Robert Montgomery Knight
Right.
passes away at 83. I'm glad he did get back to Assembly Hall one last
And
time.
he played on a great college team. That Ohio State had
Lucas.
Siegfried, Havlicek.
And I believe he patched things up with Coach K, who was at Army.
Right,
and
right.
a lot of coaches, they loved Knight, but they wanted to distance themselves at the
Exactly.
end.
Yeah.
But Bobby Knight dead at the age of 83.
Yeah.
Let's get into some college football. Let me give you the top 10. It changes every week. You and I were pretty spot on with the fake teams and the real teams. Number one is, I'm going to give you the top 10. Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State.
Did you watch last night?
What?
Ohio State.
No, I'm talking about the top 10, not the bowl, not the...
Okay.
Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Florida State, Washington, Oregon, Texas, Alabama, Penn State, and Oklahoma. The SEC has a final, a championship game. It'll probably be Georgia versus Alabama, the way it lines up right now, if everything goes in order. Big Ten, they have Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State all in the same.
Yeah.
Big Ten looks like it's going to be Michigan, Ohio State, or Penn State versus Iowa.
That's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
And the Pac-12 only has one conference, one division. So I don't know what happens there. The ACC is not really worth talking about because Florida State, I think if they lose in the championship game, are still in.
So what does the Big 12 do? Take their top 4 teams and play seeded?
I don't know what
Is that
they do. I really don't. I should know. I don't know.
Do you know?
No,
Oh.
I think it's switched so much lately
It has.
where I don't know
Yeah.
anymore.
Georgia has Missouri this week, and then they go to Tennessee. So it's there's no guarantee. Michigan has the toughest schedule remaining, probably at Penn State, home to the Buckeyes.
That's because they didn't play anybody to get there.
Correct. Ohio State has Michigan. Florida State versus the U is always a big game. Washington goes to USC. Oregon has USC and the whatever they call that game, the rivalry with Oregon State. It's called something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Ramble. No.
Texas has Kansas State. Alabama has LSU. LSU is playing well. Penn State has Michigan left. Oklahoma really just has Oklahoma State left. Anybody have any opinions on the 4 best teams right now
It's
today?
still top 4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure about Ohio State. They haven't played a whole lot of. They beat Notre Dame and they beat Penn State.
Both at home too.
Yeah, but they looked good last week. They look good, but I didn't have much confidence in that. But somehow I think Florida State's going to wind up maybe in the top of this thing before it's over. If they get by Miami, I think they're going to do that.
I'm not gonna lie. I was obviously a '90s Florida State guy.
I was an 80s Miami guy.
Okay, and sort of seeing them come back because they've been gone for
So
a
is
long time.
so is Miami.
And it's nice to see them coming back, and they've been climbing the ranks. So I would like to see Florida State. I mean, like I said, if they can beat Miami.
Listen, Florida State Miami was the game of the year for 8 years straight. Yeah.
Every year.
Kevin, you're a wide receiver guy as well. Marvin Harrison, one of the best wide receivers you've ever seen at the college level.
Yeah, he's special. I'm a Giants fan. I would love for him to be a New York Giant in the future. Get some weapons to for them to have some success on offense.
Yeah, we're definitely going to talk NFL soon because the Giants made some moves. We'll talk
The
NFL.
backup quarterback from East Stroudsburg, Tim Roken, is the head coach at St. Joe's down in Philly, and he coached him and Jeremiah Trotter, and he's junior. And he said, Tim, Marvin Harrison is the greatest football player I've ever seen.
Where in Philly is he?
St. Joe's Prep.
Where's that?
Right in Philly.
Right in the middle of Philadelphia.
I'll have to ask Artis Halley. I'll get a
Yeah.
sweatshirt from St. Joe's.
Yeah, he said because
You know-
I believe the quarterback he had that year also went to Ohio State.
It's a private school, no?
It's a Catholic school.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah,
play.
yeah.
That's the team Bosco plays
Yeah.
every,
Yeah.
or they play not every
Yeah.
year. But it's funny.
I think Steve Smith went there, didn't he? Didn't Steve Smith go there?
Not
Senior,
when-
Steve Smith Senior?
Yeah, not when. I mean, he
Okay.
just took over the job probably 8 or 9 years ago.
I'll tell you
But-
what, I don't think anybody wants Oregon at the end. If Oregon runs through this, I don't think anybody wants them. Boy, they looked so good against Utah the other night. It was not even funny.
Problem is they do not play defense there.
Who?
Anybody in the Pac-12. They just don't.
Well, Utah did. Utah was
He
considered
gave
one
up
of the best
35
teams.
points.
Well, that's how good Oregon is.
No,
And don't forget, I graduated high school with Bo Nix. We graduated the same year. So
what are you talking about?
he's been there 7 years. He's
Oh,
been in
you're
college
being
7
sarcastic.
years.
Yeah. Bo Nix is 42 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, he has the experience.
To me, the best two teams I've seen this year are Florida State and Michigan. They really are. I know Michigan hasn't played anybody, but
And
Florida
they-
State
they-
and Michigan are the two
Yeah,
best
but I
teams
think
I've
if you
seen.
can play defense, you could beat anybody. But then Georgia has that experience of being there before.
They sure do. They got a great tight end.
I find it hard to bet against Georgia. They're smart.
But the same thing is true. Who do you think would have fared better in that final game last year against Georgia? You think Alabama would have given them the best game of anybody in the country at the end of the year?
Yes,
If you
but
think
that's
about
like
if
yeah,
you
but
think
that's
about-
why they need the tournament because
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
the basketball has that one shining moment
Yeah.
where a George Mason could get in
Yeah.
there. And college football needs that.
Yeah.
There's
What do you think? How many teams should get in though?
well, you're always going to argue if they take 8, they should have.
Take
Look
it
who
nine.
should have been
Right.
9 or
Yeah,
10.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they went to 9,000 games in basketball, and I still think they need more. It's a,
Yeah.
it's a whole month.
Eight to
Yeah.
me is great because I just named the top 10. And Dick, I'll give you kudos because when Alabama lost their first game of the year and didn't look good,
Yeah.
I said this is not an Alabama team.
Yeah.
And I still don't think they're a prime Alabama team,
Maybe
but
not.
you're right. They have a chance of getting in
You're
still
right,
from
exactly,
the 9 hole.
exactly. Yeah.
All they have to do, not all they have to do, is win the remainder of the games and beat Georgia, and they're in.
Don't forget, Michigan or Ohio State's going to be out of there, I think.
Well, because
One of them's going to lose.
Yeah, one of them's gonna lose.
Could take two
one
from
could
that,
lose
though.
twice. One could lose twice.
Yeah, 2 losses and you're
Yeah.
finished. But
Now I think Washington is in. I think Pennick is just gone nuts. I think he is really, really tremendous.
Timmy, you mentioned Marvin Harrison. I mentioned you said great. Kevin, as a quarterback, and you have the first selection, and you have to take a quarterback. I'm going to give you Bo Nix, Pennick, Caleb Williams, May at North Carolina. Who are you taking?
Caleb.
Yeah? You don't think the roses come off the bloom a little bit with him lately?
I think anyone who's been with Lincoln Riley, I'll put my money on.
Okay.
I'm a big.
I mean, listen,
I'm
he's
a
done-
big fan of Lincoln Riley. I actually was able to sit in on some things with him to kind of listen to what they do, what their installs are like, what their practices look like, how they do all that stuff.
Offensively, you can't debate Lincoln Riley, but does he know that
Would
the
you-
other team gets the ball as well and he has to stop them?
You would think with all the studs
He's
and all that.
Caleb's a quarterback, so
Yeah,
you
you know,
asked quarterback.
you-
You didn't ask.
I'm
I'm not going to take a linebacker from
It's,
him.
it's unfathomable to me that they could be so good offensively and be so bad defensively. It's just amazing to me. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Dabo Sweeney's taking some knocks.
Yeah, well,
Is Dabo Sweeney a product of the players he's had? Because this is the first year that Dabo's really, he doesn't have a 5-star at every position, and he's getting beat up pretty good.
Yeah,
I mean, he's also not in the easy conference.
and his quarterback left.
He's not in the SEC, and he's not. Listen, the ACC in basketball you can't debate,
Yeah.
but in football, I think the ACC needs Florida State and Miami to be great
Yes.
because when they're not, you're talking about the ilks of teams like Louisville that aren't going to scare anybody. They're going to have a nice record at the end of the year, but they're not beating anybody. The ACC is kind of weak the last few years.
Yeah.
But like I said, this year they're not because Florida State, Miami are good, and North
Yeah.
Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, but what are your thoughts on Dabo?
I mean, I think people think it's easy to be 10-0, 11-0, to be that good because you see Bama do it so much.
Yeah.
You see, Georgia's done it the last few years. It's hard. It's hard to recruit. It's hard, especially with NIL stuff now. It's hard to out recruit.
You're still
Those
Clemson.
big
You're
schools.
still Death Valley.
Yeah,
you're
you do
still.
that, but that stuff's a lot of that is because of Dabo. I'm not a Dabo guy. I'm
No.
not saying he won 2 national championships.
yeah.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny?
He recruited those guys.
And I guess you could say this in any sport. You take Clemson's loss against Florida State. 3rd and 1 runs the ball, doesn't get it. 4th and 1 runs, doesn't get it. And everybody, Dabo Dabo killed him in this game.
Dabo can't coach.
If the kid gets a yard like he's
But
supposed
if he
to,
threw
then
it twice-
Dabo made a great
If
decision.
he threw it twice, they would have said, "How come you didn't run?"
right, exactly.
You're never right at it.
Exactly.
You're never right. No
And
matter.
don't forget, you look around. Didn't realize a lot of his players are playing somewhere else and thriving. That they were good players there.
Oregon
but
State
somehow-
quarterback DJ
No, but there was a
wide.
there was a wide receiver that a really great wide receiver that's playing somewhere, and I said, wasn't he at Clemson last year? And he had a great year, but he seems to have lost a lot of
Key components of his team.
offensive players that are really good. Offensive players that are really good.
You know, we were talking about the portal and everything before. What the portal has done is it has made the SEC and other conferences even deeper. Kentucky, Missouri, in the SEC, Oregon State, Washington State in the Pac-12, and Rutgers in the Big Ten is no doormat anymore. And if you look at the rosters of Kentucky and Missouri, I was looking at them. This 60% of the kids played at either Alabama or Georgia. They just or LSU. They transferred.
Mm-hmm.
So the portal has been advantageous for a lot of those mid-level Power 5 schools.
Well, there's also, and I can see this happening too. You go to one like Alabama or Georgia, and you're like, oh, hey, listen, next year you're the guy.
Yeah.
And then that summer,
And then they bring in a 5-star recruit.
exactly.
And
And
you're
now
not the
you're
guy.
right back to where you were. You're like,
Yeah.
well, listen, I did this for 2 years. I don't want to hang out again.
Yeah.
So then you
But
enter the transfer portal.
Since they invented sports, kids have been recruited over.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it happens.
Yeah,
But
you want to get
they
better.
were stuck.
Yeah.
But they were stuck.
Yeah.
Now they can move. Now they recruit 5-star quarterbacks.
But I think the problem with
You know,
that was that, all right, listen, you recruited a guy better than me.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go outwork that guy. And because you were stuck. So the only way you could play is if you outworked him and earned that job.
Well, that's going to come from what kind of high school he came from. Was his coach, a positive influence on that?
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of thing.
When we come back, we're going to talk some NFL. We'll be right back. We'll talk NFL. This part of the show has been brought to you by Village Pizza, right on Greenwich Avenue in Goshen. Village Pizza. They've been there 100 years. They have the best pizza in Goshen. Every corner, there's 3 pizza places in Goshen. Nobody does a better job than John Paul at Village Pizza. They've been there for, like I said, 100 years, so they must be doing something right. We'll be right back. We are back at Sports 845, the November 1st, 2023. Kevin Arduino from Cornwall, Timmy Strenfel from Middletown, and my partner, Dick O'Neill. Dick, we were talking about college football, and I just want to say one last thing. If there was a 12-team playoff this year, and it starts next year, this is exactly what it would look like. Your top 4, your number 1 seed would be Ohio State, number 2 would be Georgia, 3 would be the Seminoles, 4 would be Washington. Your first round matchups would be Alabama versus Oklahoma. Winner gets Ohio State. Michigan versus who the hell is this? Tulane. How do they have Tulane in there? Michigan would play Tulane, and the winner would get Washington. Texas would play your team, Ole Miss, and the winner gets Georgia. Oregon, Penn State, winner gets Florida State. So according to the CFP rankings, Tulane is the 12th team. I don't see how that's, didn't they lose a game, Tulane? They must.
Oh, they're 12, so.
Yeah, but
They did lose a game.
They shouldn't even be in the top 20 with the schedule they played. They just should. Tulane is, I don't know. Tulane is 7-1.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you have a
Maybe
team
they
that's
won their conference. Maybe
And they got beat by a team that they were supposed to
they
beat the hell out of.
lost to Ole Miss?
Is that who they lost to?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But-
I like Ole Miss.
All right, let's get to the NFL here. The NFL trade deadline came and passed. Coaches were the Raiders fired their coach Josh McDaniels. They fired their GM. He should fire his hairdresser. The owner of the Raiders should go see Ernest Allen. That guy. If you have $1 billion something in the bank, you can't look like that. You guys are aware of the trades that went down in the NFL.
Yeah.
What team did the best? I know in my head what I think, but Kevin?
Remind me again. Why?
Montez Sweat went to the Ravens. Leonard Williams went to Seattle. Chase Young went to the 49ers, and I think Roquan Smith also went to the Ravens.
Chase and the 49ers.
My opinion, we agree.
Yeah.
Chase Young, they have both. I mean,
That defense was already.
yes.
I'm going to go with Buffalo with
There you
who
go.
they get Rasul.
Douglas.
Yeah,
Okay.
because they
They
were
need-
hurting back
they
then.
needed that.
Yeah,
They needed that bad.
their guys were dropping like flies back
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I think that may be the difference there.
Antonio Pierce is going to be the interim head coach for the
About ti-
Raiders.
about time.
Garoppolo was benched.
Yeah.
Let me.
Wait, who's their quarterback now?
Alton,
The freshman, the 4th round pick, O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell.
Aiden O'Connell. Oh yeah.
Let me give you the NFL. The NFC is a lot tougher right now to figure out. But in the NFL, in the AFC, Miami's 6-2. They go to Kansas City this week. If you love offense, you should love that game. The Bills are 5-3, and they don't look like a good 5-3.
No.
Yeah, but that might be okay because they're winning.
They don't go to Kansas City. They go to Stuttgart or someplace.
They go-
They're in
Yeah, no,
Germany.
I'm saying Miami goes to Kansas City.
Yeah, no,
Buffalo
they're
goes
in
to City.
Stuttgart.
Oh, Miami goes to Kansas City in Germany. Yes, you're right. The Ravens are going to win the North Division. They're 6-2. The Jaguars are going to win the South, and the Chiefs are going to win the West.
Uh-huh.
That's the AFC in a nutshell. The only division that is up in the air is the AFC East because I think the Jets. The Jets are still there.
Yeah.
Um,
Defense.
Yeah. The NFC, the East, the Eagles are 7-1. They play the Cowboys this week. They're 5-2. In the North, the Lions are 6-2, but they are the Lions.
They are the Lions.
And they're without Cousins.
And the
the
Vikings,
Vikings.
the
Yeah,
Vikings
yeah,
are
okay.
4-4, but they made a good trade.
They did.
They
did.
acquired Dobbs from Arizona, who's
Right.
played very well,
Yeah.
and the Vikings are 4-4. So I put them in the mix still.
Uh-huh.
In the South, you got basically 5 terrible teams that are all 4-4: Falcons, Saints, and the Bucs.
8 teams will win that conference.
Yeah.
8 wins will win that conference, I believe.
And every year
Don't
that
you think?
happens.
Yeah.
Yep, every year.
The West, Seattle's 5-2, and the 49ers all of a sudden have lost 3 in a row. To me, the 49ers are still the Super Bowl favorites in the NFC. 49ers, Eagles, those 2 teams in the NFC.
Yeah.
The 49ers got better with this trade.
Oh, they did.
With the trades. And,
You know what?
and as soon as they got Samuel
I
back.
agree
yeah.
when you're looking at it like if you like on paper you're like, oh
Yeah.
wow, Chase Young.
Mhm.
But to tell you the truth, I mean in Washington, he had a great defensive line and he didn't do much. As much as I think that
I agree
he
with you.
is
That's
going,
why they let him go.
Yeah.
That's
There
why
was-
they let him go.
as much as they expected from him,
Yeah.
they didn't get
No.
the production
The
from him.
Commanders front office let out, and I don't know why they would, if you're trying to trade somebody, you want to build them up.
Yeah.
But Chase Young didn't listen, they said.
No.
All he wanted to do
Didn't play.
was just get to the quarterback.
Right.
He didn't listen to any of their schemes or anything. He was very uncoachable, they said.
Yeah.
Now, why they would say that, I don't know when you're trying to build
Well,
someone up.
they were justifying the trade. This is why
They said it before he was traded, though.
I just couldn't believe they got a 3rd round and that was it. I was like,
Yeah.
For Chase Young.
for
Yeah,
Chase Young,
yeah.
the number 2 overall pick.
I can't
Couple years
believe the
ago.
Giants weren't interested in Chase Young, to be honest with you.
The
Especially
Giants-
if they traded Leonard.
I think the Giants are in sell mode.
Yeah, but you're not buying.
Yeah,
You're getting
for the future.
someone that's 23 years old.
Yeah,
but
the
I don't
problem
think they wanted to
is
give up picks.
Daniel Jones' contract.
That's not. We're going to get to the Giants in a second because I had an argument with your brother-in-law the other day.
Oh, he
But
loves
if
Daniel
you
Jones.
could put Chase Young on one side and Thibodeau on the other, you got 2 guys in their 20s.
Yeah,
A
no.
3rd round pick. Come on, you could have. I mean,
no,
let's
and,
talk.
And Chase Young isn't 26 yet, is he? He's still.
That's what I just said.
Yeah.
Now let's get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's hurt.
Let's talk Giants because your brother-in-law was in the other day, and I wasn't disagreeing with him, but in a way I was. Daniel Jones' contract is not absurd. He's like the 15th highest paid quarterback, and he's probably the 15th. You know what? You'll agree with me here, or maybe you won't.
I'm interested to hear what he has to say.
We
He's
don't
a
know
guy-
what. I don't think you or I know what Daniel Jones is yet, and it's a shame because he's been in the league for 4 years, 5 years maybe, and he's had 3 different head coaches, 4 different offensive coordinators, and an offensive line that is either injured or terrible when healthy. So we really don't know what Daniel Jones is yet. We saw him win a playoff game on the road. We saw Daniel Jones have a decent offensive line last year, and he was almost Josh Allen light.
Agreed.
So to say his contract is absurd, it really isn't absurd. And I said this to Jason, I'll say it to you. Don't come to me and say they shouldn't have re-signed him. Tell me who they should have gone after instead of. What were your options?
Yeah.
Kevin, go.
I agree with you 100%. I don't think we've seen what he can do. We've seen flashes.
Mhm.
We've seen a little bit of it. I think Mara said it the best when they fired the judge. It's like, we've done everything to screw this kid up. Everything we've done has screwed him up. I think the offensive line this year they had 3 practice squad guys starting at the offensive line. You can't do anything. You have
The bigger
no
thing is
time to do anything.
you took Evan Neal with the 4th or 5th pick, and he hasn't progressed yet. I don't know enough about football to say, but I would think it's very difficult to be a quarterback your first year in the NFL from college. I don't care who you are.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like Troy Aikman, Marino, they've all gotten the shit beat out of them their first year.
Not Dan Marino.
Okay, I'm just naming. I
Peyton
mean,
Manning.
Peyton Manning,
Oh, yeah.
Troy
Yeah.
Aikman.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can name a bunch.
Oh yeah, all of them. All of them. Yeah.
But I would think an offensive lineman, tell me if I'm wrong, should be able to make the transition from college to the NFL much smoother. No?
I think it's a whole different level every single position. It's
Okay.
different speed.
Yeah, the speed
Now
is
Neil
just-
came from
yeah.
Bama, which is probably you're playing the most, the
Yeah.
highest speed, the biggest bodies up front. But I think it's just a different.
Is Neil going to be good?
I think it's too early to count him out.
Okay.
I think he's had a tough year,
Okay.
but I think it's too early to say he's a bust.
Okay. I agree with you. I think it's too early. But again, with Daniel Jones, I want to go back to that.
I also think that they highlight like, oh, you'll see something,
Yeah, all of
and
that.
it's always the bad.
Right.
You don't
That's
you
right.
don't see the 95% of the plays where he makes
Right.
great blocks
Right.
or does a great job.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, here's the 3 plays
Yeah.
that he played terrible.
Plus, his receivers aren't world class either. Haven't
No.
been world class either. Let's look at
No,
it that way.
they had terrible wide receivers and a terrible line, and they had Barkley hurt. So what the hell do you want from Jones? So my question is, and you could speak for Jason, what should the Giants have done in the offseason? You can tell me, Darin, they should have stayed pat. They should have started Tyrod Taylor and let Daniel Jones. They should have franchised him. But they couldn't do that, or they would have lost Barkley. You can only franchise one guy. So, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, look how that turned out. $72 million the Raiders are eating.
Yeah.
He gets paid more than Daniel Jones,
And he's benched.
and he's benched. So
And
who
aren't they paying Josh McDaniels all the money?
probably?
Oh yeah.
So who
And
would
the
your
general manager.
who would your quarterback have been if it wasn't
Daniel
Jones?
Jones.
Okay, so
I
we're
was
on the same
happy-
page.
I was happy that they gave him the contract.
But at the same time, you're sitting here telling me if the Giants have the number 1 pick next year, you're taking Caleb.
You said me.
Oh, you're
I don't
taking
know.
Marvin Harrison.
I was the GM.
Okay.
Yeah, I said Marvin Harris.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
getting
yes, you
weapons
did.
for Jones.
If I'm a GM
Mhm.
in professional football, I'm going to try to recruit the best backup that I can find because eventually he's going to be playing it.
Well, Tyrod Taylor could argue is the best backup
think about it.
quarterback in the NFL.
Miami's one more headbang on Tua from being back to normal.
Mhm.
Back to, I don't know who their backup is. Jason, somebody?
Well, the problem with that is if that happens, Miami now drastically gets worse.
Yeah.
Now, you're not a Daniel Jones guy. Are you a Giant
I'm
fan?
a Buffalo Bills fan.
Okay, you're a Buffalo Bills fan. Pretend you're a Giant fan for a second. Would you have re-signed Daniel Jones?
You know what? I think that there's a lot of problems elsewhere. But here's the thing. You signed Daniel Jones for that money, and now you're saying, hey, we're putting all the faith in you.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
That's
the
my
money to
problem.
me can't be part of the argument because he's going to get the money from someone.
Yes.
And people are making it out like he's getting paid more than Josh Allen or paid more than Patrick Mahomes. He's getting paid less than a lot of guys. He's the 15th highest paid quarterback.
I think it's the timing of it too. You're at, it's right now. It's at a low. It's just they're playing terrible.
Yeah.
He's hurt. He's been hurt. He's been out. He's bad when he played.
So
When
if
that
this was
contract
last
came,
year,
right?
exactly.
I was one of them. We were like, wow, we're back.
Yeah.
Gay ball's the answer. We kept Kafka, kept Martindale.
Yeah.
yeah, we're all in. Like we made the playoffs, won a playoff game at Minnesota.
Mhm.
The Giants are back.
Mhm.
So
I said the same thing.
pay him.
I
Like,
thought
now
so,
it's
too.
easy to
I
say,
thought so,
like,
too.
should they have paid him?
Yeah.
Well,
To Darin's point, they had no choice.
You really didn't.
no,
You had no
I-
choice.
and
Unless you were going to
still-
go in
But
with
how,
Tyrod
do you,
Taylor.
And
how do you
still-
put yourself in that situation?
And still, who you going to get?
Listen,
Who you going to get that's
Look
better?
ar- look
Who you
ar-
going to get
No,
that's better?
I agree.
look around the league. And here, just look
Yeah,
around.
but Josh Dobbs 3 weeks ago, no one knew that guy at all.
Right.
And
that's-
now all of a sudden,
he did a
oh,
great
this is
job.
a great pickup for,
Yeah,
the,
but-
for the
Geno,
Vikings.
too.
But something must
And
have
Geno
happened.
Smith,
Something must have happened that Arizona got rid of him if he was playing that great. How the hell do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, I mean, just look around.
And you get guys like what's his name hasn't practiced all week. Allen hasn't practiced all
Oh, I
week.
know.
You know, with his shoulder and things.
Yeah.
Most of these quarterbacks are not practicing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to give you the NFC because that's where Daniel Jones is.
Uh,
Dobbs was the. I take Daniel Jones over Kyler Murray.
Well, I mean, listen,
Alright.
you also, and yes, you can say the NFC, because I would say, I don't know, 9 of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL are in the AFC.
So let's go to the AFC. Daniel Jones over Zach Wilson. Daniel Jones over Mac Jones.
Yes.
Yes.
Daniel Jones over Pickett.
Yes.
Daniel Jones over Deshaun Watson.
Yes. The way he's playing, he hasn't shown me anything.
Don't know
It
much.
doesn't even look like he wants to play.
Daniel Jones over Ryan Tannehill.
Yes.
Uh,
Not Levi's.
Daniel
Hurt now?
Jones. Daniel Jones over Minshew or Anthony Richardson. We don't know what Anthony Richardson is. We know he's going to get hurt. Daniel Jones over Garoppolo. Daniel Jones over Russell Wilson. So I just gave you 7 teams in the AFC that we kind of all agree on that he's better than or just as good as.
right.
You're paying him as the 15th best quarterback, and he probably is the 15th best quarterback.
Did they pay Saquon yet?
They gave Saquon a contract. Yes.
He got
Yeah.
a 3-year extension or something, right?
No,
Or-
he got a 1-year deal.
1 year,
1
right.
year
Yeah, they gave him 10 more million or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he held out and raised all that hell.
So I mean, I agree with Kevin. I think, like, if you had to pay him this year, you would have said Daniel Jones is out.
I don't know if you would have said that. You probably would have said, unfortunately, what we've been saying for 4 years. He had no offensive line. He had Barkley, who's made of glass, who has missed half the games already.
Yeah.
You have no wide receiving core,
But you've said it the last 4 years and you're still saying it.
but that's not on Jones.
I agree.
That's not on Jones. Is it on? Who's it on? It's on. I mean, you can't control guys getting hurt.
Yeah.
But I just, again, I don't have posters of Daniel Jones all over my house, but I don't think it's fair to throw him off the bus yet because you really don't know what he is
Well,
But when are you going to find out is the real question.
when he wins a Super Bowl. I don't know.
Hopefully in the next couple.
Well, here's the thing.
Too.
They haven't been able to improve their offensive line. What's he been there, 5 years?
But
They haven't improved it one bit.
No, they did. Andrew Thomas is an all-pro.
But
Is
that's
legit.
it.
They drafted Evan Neal, and this year, if they'll have a top 8 pick. I'm not even looking at anybody except the best offensive lineman on the board.
Oh, no, I understand that, but so are the Jets are going to be having to do that too.
That's
Well, what
Marvin
I'm
Harrison.
saying, but they haven't improved that one. They haven't improved their
Harrison
receiving
won't be there
core.
at 8.
They haven't improved their receiving core.
Oh,
So-
the Giants?
Yeah.
Sure they did. They went out and got Darren Waller, and they drafted Jalen Hyatt out of Tennessee. So they did. They did, but you can't tie up money. If you're paying your quarterback, you can't. You have to protect him. That's what I think.
I also think that they play with fake money in the NFL because all these guys get big contracts, but they're still signing.
Yeah, because they all listen. Aaron Rodgers is. They all restructure. They all do things.
They know how to work the money.
Let's talk Jets. And you know what's funny? Reading some. Do you guys read Twitter? I mean, people on Twitter made the Jet Giant game into
Super Bowl.
an instant classic.
Oh, yeah.
What the
It
referee
was.
should
It
have,
was. I was
what the,
watching it like this.
what the referee should have said at overtime when he flipped the coin. You guys all understand the rules. The rules are out the window. Since there's not one of you, neither one of you teams have a snowball's chance in hell in touching the end zone. Whoever kicks a field goal or a safety will all get the hell out of here because both of you guys couldn't score if there was no defense on the field. Zach Wilson had his best 3 throws of the year, and
With,
Dable-
44 seconds to go, he had his 2 best best performance.
Yeah,
That and
Dable
overtime.
didn't.
That
Dable
overtime.
didn't cost him that game. What cost him that game were two things: Thibodeau offsides, which stopped the clock, and I don't know why, for the life of me, Barkley slid. You know which play I'm talking
Yeah, I
about?
do.
I don't know why he did that.
Just probably to keep the clock running or some.
Yeah.
But
I don't know.
here's the thing.
And missing a field goal.
Even if he went 4th and 1, didn't make it, they were going to have to go 80 yards. They haven't had 80 yards of offense all day, and they were going to have to do it in 44 seconds.
But they didn't, because Dable kicked the field goal. Gano just missed it. If he makes the field goal, we're talking about a giant win.
yeah, but what I'm saying to you, even if they fail, they go 4th and 1 and they don't make it. Now, did you think Zach Wilson was going to take him 80 yards?
No.
Oh, all right, okay.
But he did.
All right. He did, but no, he didn't have to take him 80 yards.
He had to get him in field goal range.
Yeah.
But that's why Dable went for the field goal.
I think he cost him.
What do you thought? The Jets defense is good. It's not the 85 Bears. It's good.
Yeah, good.
I think Sauce Gardner is very good, but I think he's had a little bit of. I think his stock has gone down a little bit. There's still talk Aaron Rodgers is going to come back.
You shouldn't.
I listened to him today.
You shouldn't.
Well, let me tell you, the Jets are 4-3. Okay, the Jets are 4-3. They what are they on a bye this week? Yeah.
No, they play.
Oh, they play the Commanders.
Yeah.
So let's say that. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong
Uh,
schedule. I'm sorry.
They play.
They play the Chargers Monday night.
Right.
Let's assume they beat the Chargers 5-3. They go to the Raiders 6-3, lose at Buffalo 6-4, lose to Miami 6-5, beat Atlanta 7-5, beat the Texans 8-5, lose to the Dolphins 8-6, beat the Commanders 9-6. Aaron Rodgers, that's his timeline. Do you bring him back at 9-6 with the Browns and the Patriots remaining to go 11-6? I do.
I bring him back next September. If he gets hurt again on that same injury, he's done. He could be crippled.
That's all right.
You know, that's
I'm not gonna lie, I can't believe he came back,
no.
Well, he didn't yet. but-
or he's even interested in
Yeah.
coming back.
Yeah.
the thought that he could be back, but at 9-6, Rodgers is 39 years old. He's on a 2-year deal. I'm getting the most out of him I possibly can. I'm
Think of
bringing him
that.
back.
Think of that offensive line, which is down now. 3 offensive linemen. Their third string lineman got hurt.
Yeah.
I think if they have a shot,
Yes.
So do I.
Do you?
yeah,
Do you?
and they have
Okay.
a shot.
All right.
If he's cleared at 9-6, you bring him back. You go for it. You have 2 years with him, maybe 3.
Business, man. The NFL's
You know, I said in the
long
beginning
ride.
of the year, we talked about it in the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
I thought if the Jets with Rodgers came through that first 6 games at 3-3, I would have been happy. I didn't expect them to beat the Bills or Philly. I didn't expect them to beat that. So I figured it with Rodgers. Now they're putting it together. A third of the season's over. Now they can go from there because the schedule got a little bit easier. But
Were you upset when the Bills lost Abel? And Kafka?
I was upset when they lost me. Yes.
What's wrong with the Buffalo Bills this year?
locker-
And to say
the
that
locker room.
they're
Diggs.
5-3.
Diggs in the locker room.
I think it's just they have no identity, and I think, and this is just me thinking. I think coaches sometimes coach to make money somewhere else. Like I think Ken Dorsey is trying to prove to everyone that he can do whatever he wants in Buffalo, and they want to score as many points as they can, so that way when a new head coach opportunity comes, he can go. I was happy that Ken Dorsey got the job because he was with Josh Allen for 3 years. He was under Dable. He learned a lot. And now I don't know what is happening. And he's it seems like he's smart, but last year I was upset at like 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, they're throwing deep balls. Like, hey, can we just move the chains and get the ball going?
When I heard the rumors they were going to go get Derrick Henry,
They got Leonard Fournette.
Oh, the
I
Bills
don't know,
did?
they got him, which is not bad. But I thought that could release the hounds right there. They picked him up because their running game, even though
Listen, I think Cook is.
I agree with
very,
you.
very good.
I agree with you.
I just don't know why they don't like to give him the ball. And
Well,
when they do run the ball, it's not. I don't know.
You talk about these coordinators that want to.
But again, now we're always talking about the coach.
Yeah, but Eric Eric Bieniemy is not exactly lighting the world on fire where he is now.
You're right.
We'll be right back, and we will talk some NBA and finish up the show. We'll hear from the Irishman. This part of the show brought to you by Orange County Bagel. 4 locations, Walden, Washingtonville, Goshen, and Middletown. We do catering. It's a great place. And we host the show here at Orange County Bagel, Middletown. We will be right back. Sports 845, November 1st, 2023. Every week we do our picks and we let our guests do some picks. Last week, I had the best week. I was 4-0 last week. Never done 4-0. But and they were all pretty easy wins last week for me. Kevin, why don't you go first? And before you do this, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-HOPE New York. You could text them, you could call them, and they will they'll pay off your debt, I guess. Go ahead, Kevin.
My 2 games I'm looking at in college football, I'm taking Texas Longhorns -4 over Kansas State.
Why?
I think this Texas team. So I think Sarkisian has it going. Quarterback is still out, but I think they're rolling. I'm a big fan of Sarkisian. I think he does some great stuff. And I think Texas is the real deal. Not just because they beat Bama early on, but I just think they're.
Okay, so you like Texas over Kansas State, and did you pick 2 or 3 more games?
I got an NFL one too. I hate doing this as a Giants fan. Picking this game. The Eagles playing the Cowboys this week. It's probably the biggest game, especially in the NFC. I'm going to take the Eagles -3.
At home, I believe, right?
At home against Dallas.
I agree. Listen, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, I said this to you last week, was one of my games that I won. They destroy the mid-level teams, but Dak needs that signature win.
They beat up on the Giants, man.
Right, but Dak needs
Jets
that
at the
signature
time.
win. You know, back to that, the Giants' season ended on that first drive against Dallas.
Oh, yeah.
It really,
I was there.
it's amazing how it changes everything.
Yeah.
Dick, let's let our guest go next. Timmy, go ahead.
I was actually going to take the Eagles game also coming from Pennsylvania. All of my family is going to be rooting for the Eagles at -3. But since he chose it, I'll go with a game that no matter who wins really hurts me as a Buffalo Bills fan. But I think I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Dolphins. I think the Chiefs are giving up 2. And I feel that Kansas City has to bounce back from that loss last week.
I saw a stat. Since Mahomes arrived in Kansas City, they are undefeated the week after a loss. Go ahead. So you like the Chiefs?
I like the Chiefs.
-2.
Yep, I need them. I mean, as much as I don't want either of those teams to win, the
Mhm.
Chiefs beating the Dolphins at this point is a much better help for
Same
the
division.
Bills.
Same
Yes.
conference. Same division.
But in college football, I think I'm going to take, and I know this is possibly a crazy one, but I think I'll take USC over Washingtonville.
Washington.
Or Washington.
I would definitely take them over
Yeah,
Washington.
Washington.
Washington was getting 4.
I think Caleb Williams has something to prove now. And I think that there's a lot of questions about him possibly going 1 in the NFL draft. So I think that he wants to.
USC, I believe you're getting points there at home.
-2.
+4, I think.
Oh, was it?
I think USC is a 4-point dog at the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
USC is getting 3 points at home.
Okay.
All right, so you have USC. Dick, go ahead, buddy.
All right, I'm taking the Saints.
Who do they play?
I don't know.
Okay. All right. Taking the Saints, though.
Okay, and the Chiefs, I'm going with Tim with the Chiefs.
Saints are playing the Bears.
Saints are playing the Bears.
Yeah, Bears. And I think they're giving up 8. They're
Okay.
giving up 8. I'm taking the Elephants from Alabama, giving up 3
Mhm.
against
LSU.
LSU, and I'm taking Ole Miss, giving up 3 to Texas A&M.
Okay. Once again, and I'll say this several more times throughout the night, I was 4-0 last week. I am going to go with Kevin and I seem to hit it off here. I'm going to take the Longhorns -4. I think Oklahoma losing last week. Sarkisian does have it going. I think the Oklahoma loss on their record, it's a game they certainly could have won. I like Texas. I like Texas to win big this week, especially at home. I'm going to take, as a Miami fan, this kills me, but I am going to take the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame. Sam Hartman is celebrating his 38th birthday. They go into Death Valley. They're a 3-point favorite. I think Notre Dame has righted the ship. I think Notre Dame beats Clemson. In the NFL, I'm going to take the Ravens. They're 6-point favorites. I think the Ravens got a lot better. It might not show this week. Lamar Jackson's playing very well. The Ravens, to me, are definitely the best team in that division. And I'm going to take the Patriots. Getting 3.5 points at home against the Commanders. I just think that there's a mess in Washington. They just unloaded Chase
Sold
Young.
everybody.
Marquez.
Yeah. I just think there's a mess, and I think the Patriots win that game. Belichick's record against rookies and second-year quarterbacks is pretty good, and I'll take the Patriots. 3.5 points there.
I think that's a good bet. I forgot all about that.
Well, yeah. So
I
was 4-0 last week.
His record against first and second year quarterbacks is not good. It's goddamn phenomenal, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah. Before we get into basketball, Dick, I want to congratulate Kentucky Wesleyan for their upset win over Louisville in a game that meant nothing to Louisville but meant everything to Kentucky Wesleyan. Another game that took place similar, Pace beat St. John's.
Don't tell me.
Yes. But Patino was playing guys that he wouldn't normally play. I'm sure Louisville was doing the same thing. Yeah.
No, Louisville played their starters.
Well, Kentucky Wesleyan won it for Dick O'Neill.
Yeah, well, times we're beating.
College basketball is great. It's coming up soon. We'll talk a lot about that when it gets ready. But Dick, 5-6 games into the season, Celtics are 3-0, Knicks are 2-2, Nuggets 4-0, the Mavericks are 3-0. Did you think at all about how I said you could save NBA All-Star Weekend? Did you think that's a good idea?
I did. I did think it was a good idea.
Kevin, what do you think of this, Timmy? All-Star Weekend is a joke. No one gives a shit about the dunking contest. The three-point contest is boring. Watching Chris Paul throw a ball into a bucket means nothing to me. And the game is 212 to 196.
Yeah.
They don't care. Make the game the United States versus the world. And I think people would really care. And I think it would be a very highly contested game. And I think you'd see people really have interest, because saying that years ago was laughable. But Stern started it. Silver continued it. I would say Team World would be a favorite in that game. You know,
I'm with
At
that.
the same time, do it during like
All-Star Weekend. That's it.
Also,
Instead of East versus West or
Right.
them picking their own
Yeah.
teams, it's the best world players versus the best United States players.
Where's it played?
At All-Star Weekend.
No, where?
And wherever All-Star Weekend is.
Oh, I see.
They hold it in a different arena every
I
year to
got
bring, to bring money into.
You
that.
know, let me just tell you this. Look at the Clippers lineup right now. Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Zubac at center. I would rather lose without Harden than win with him.
You get no argument from me. I just don't.
But that's a pretty impressive. I mean, it's certainly impressive
Well,
names.
he'll ruin that team
Yeah,
soon and get
Yeah.
that coach fired.
yeah,
You know, so yeah.
yeah. But
The best trade to me is still what the Celtics did.
Oh, yeah.
Getting Drew Holiday and Porzingis. I think if Porzingis stays healthy, Celtics are going to be just phenomenal.
I couldn't agree with you more.
I think.
let me give you just a proposal here, because you know the way I monitor the Knicks. 22-year season ticket holder. Well, I hate the NBA, but I'm a Knicks fan. I have no interest in Karl Anthony Towns.
And nor do I.
$60 million a year
Yeah.
for a perimeter
No,
player
no.
who I feel has underachieved
Right.
and underachieves more and more
Right.
each year. You agree?
I do.
Here's who I do have interest in. I do have interest in Donovan Mitchell.
I'm good with that.
I do have interest in Zach LaVine. Other than that, I can't come up with a player that could be available. I'm giving you guys. Obviously, I have interest in Anthony Davis.
A
Obviously, I have
game
interest-
changer for the
Yeah.
Knicks.
You need that. You
Yeah.
watch these games in the NBA,
Yeah.
and you don't have to watch the first 3 quarters. You don't have to watch the first 10 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Mhm.
You have to watch the team that's going to win it and wins it every year is when you get into a tight game like the other night and Luka Doncic is on your team, you're going to get a quality shot off. When Kawhi Leonard is on your team, when LeBron's on your team, when Curry's on your team, the Knicks have 4 good players and 1 marginally great player
Right,
in
right.
Brunson.
I agree.
But if I came to you and even said to you, which would never happen, Mitchell Robinson for Karl Anthony Towns, I'm not doing it. If the T-Wolves even said yes, I'm not doing it because you just got locked. You know what Towns makes?
I do.
$62 million
Can you imagine?
a year.
A year?
Yeah, a year.
He's one of the highest paid players in the
A
game.
year.
Next year he makes $62 million. Barrett, draft picks, and something else for Zach LaVine. I would do it because I think LaVine could be that guy that could get that shot off. Your opinion?
I'm not a big Zach LaVine fan. I just don't think there's anybody that's available that would make a marginal difference from what they have now.
Okay, Donovan Mitchell.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
One person. One
Okay,
person.
so what
Yeah.
are you giving up for Mitchell?
I give up a number one draft choice.
Well, you're going to have to.
Yeah, and pick
Randall?
up and Randall.
I don't know if they'd want Randall. I don't think they would. I think they would want Barrett, 2 picks, and maybe something else.
I would do that.
Yeah,
would
so
do
would
that. And I like
The
Barrett.
Knicks, by the way, have 2 picks,
And
5 picks in next year's
Right.
draft, 2 in the first round. Dallas is protected
Yeah.
up until 10, and their own pick.
And we're talking Barrett like he's trash. I think he's still a pretty good player.
Barrett is a good player.
Yeah.
I said the Knicks have 5 good. You
Right.
take a guy like Quentin Grimes.
Right.
If he was on another team, he'd probably be averaging 15
I
points a
agree.
game.
I agree. Yes.
And I had these dreams of
Yeah.
Shea Gilchrist-Alexander. The Chet Holmgren looks pretty good this year.
Yeah, he does.
And Oklahoma City is a team on the come. They're
Right.
not trading
Right.
him. But really in the NBA, there's really not much to talk about yet.
No.
The Harden trade, and we could talk about a Harden trade after the All-Star break
Well,
too.
Phoenix is struggling right from the start. Gave up a 20-point lead last night to Wembanyama.
Yeah, he's looked good.
Looked very good.
Yeah.
He looked very
I've
good.
never seen a person look like that.
No,
Like he just. Wow, everything.
he makes Dick look short. Kevin of Cornwall, Timmy of Middletown, we wish you the best of luck. We thank you for joining us. Dick, as always, it's
You got
been
it,
great.
brother. Yeah.
Rick, thank you very much. And we will be back next
Happy
week.
birthday again.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
And we will be back next week. We thank Brew, Village Pizza, Orange County Bagel, and more than anyone else, we thank Artist Alley.